Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Oh, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
For all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
Back of the net.
It didn't happen in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reached the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
A modern day football miracle. They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City.
Leicester Till I Die TV. Your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
And now, here's your host.
Right, Chris.
All right there, guys. And how are you? How the devil are you? Oh, Tottenham 3, Leicester City 1. Yeah, it was what it was. We shouldn't be surprised, really. But an interesting game. Got a lot to talk about. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. It's the post-match show with Chris and Brad. You can find us on YouTube at Leicester TID. And if you are, at Leicester TV, Leicester Till I Die TV. I'll get it right. It's been a long day. On YouTube, please feel free to give us a subscribe, hit that like button and also the notification bell as well. Be much appreciated. That's Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favourite podcast platform, wherever that may be, thank you so much. We're on the big four, Amazon, iTunes, Google and Spotify, but we're on a lot of others as well. In fact, this is where you can find us.
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Broadcasting live worldwide.
We were Mike Green, big up. Thanks for popping on. Couldn't join your watch along. I saw you doing your own darts, mate, your own darts channel. It was no problem whatsoever. And drop into watch and hi, say hi to everybody. And like he says there, please like, share, and subscribe. Chris is a great mate and guy, mate. You've got impeccable taste. And you're so right. And Renee, hello, sir. How the devil are you? Welcome back. Like me, sat through 90 minutes of the watch along. I don't know. Let's bring Brad in. And because I've got a funny feeling about this. Good evening, Brad. How the devil are you?
I'm all right. Yes. Just one of them, wasn't it, really? I don't think we came in here with great aspirations or expectations against Spurs, given our record. A little bit disappointed in that second half. You've obviously seen my adequate way of summing up the game with what I've sent you across for the end of the show. But apart from that, I'm not really too disheartened by what I saw today.
No, I mean, Mike, I didn't see any of the game, to be fair. You didn't miss much, Mike. Renee, I knew we'd lose tonight. And David, hello again, Chris. Nice to have Brad on too. It's a difficult game to analyse because a lot of what we did was quite good and we were unlucky. But again, the basics was where we lost out. I think David, to be honest with you, has hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think I did the watch along earlier, and I was joined by Ant, and I didn't know Ant was going to pop on from Ant's Leicester TV channel. Please go and give him a subscribe. He's doing great things. I know he's just finished his summing up. And he popped on, and we also had an Arsenal fan on as well. And I've got to be honest with you, the Arsenal fan was probably more upset at us losing than Ant and me were. I mean, I want Leicester to win every game, Brad. Of course I do. But this was almost like a free hit. And if you said, like, would you give up 3 points to get, the win on Thursday? Of course I bloody would. And I think, 8 changes, it kind of reflected Brendan's thinking.
Yeah, it did. I think it was always going to reflect in Brendan's thinking, the changes today, regardless of what had happened prior. I think even if Leicester were sat in 5th or higher or whatever, fighting for a Europa League spot in the league, I think today would have been that game where you were saying, out of all the fixtures we got, this is probably a free hit. It was a little bit disappointing coming into this game, because it would have been nice to have a free hit, knowing that we're still in a race for the Europa League spots in terms of league position. But it is what it is, and to be fair, until that second goal that really killed us off, we actually played quite well. I don't actually think we did a lot wrong in terms of, I don't think Spurs overawed us. They scored 2 quality goals, and God, I could have sent you that Buzz Lightyear and Woody meme, couldn't I? Corner goals everywhere, because
it was. I mean, that Son goal. I mean, I'm sorry. Inside, I was applauding it. Over the head, passed it off, got it back, top bins. I mean, you couldn't have asked for anything more. Hi, Scott. And hi, Rennie. He says this was Team B. Yes, it was. I was pleased to see, and I've been ranting on about this for a while. KDH, Maddison, and Tielemans were rested. That said, I do believe KDH and Maddison have got little injuries. Surprise, surprise. I mean, they've been playing how many games on a row, so it's hardly surprising.
It's almost like running your midfield into a ground could cause them to be a bit worse for wear afterwards. But at least they didn't feature at all today. That was I know Tielemans did come on, but at least the majority.
Tielemans wasn't injured. But the other two, I tell you what, Brendan, if those 2 players, KDH and Maddison, are not on the pitch or are not 100% for Thursday, I might start calling for your head, because we've been shouting for ages that you need to give them a break, and you suddenly do because they've got little niggles. Well, they shouldn't have even been in that point to have a little niggles.
I would, ironically, I'd instantly go on the defence of that, because this was the first game that we found out, and maybe you should speak up more about it, because he doesn't really mention it until it almost gets forced to mention it. This, by the sounds of things, was the first game in a long time that Samore was actually completely injury-free to step in. He might have wanted to give a rest earlier to the likes of his players. It's just that, unfortunately,
he's had the players. He's had Chow. I mean, I'm sorry, you can't go. He's dropped Mendy. Mendy wanted to leave, and I don't blame him. When you're not included in any squad, of course you do. He isn't Ndidi, but he's a good stand-in. We've got Chowdhury. They're not being awful. Brendan was blowing smoke up his arse. At the back end of last year with a couple of performances, especially that one against Liverpool when he was out of position. Well, don't blow smoke up the guy's arse and then hide him away for the next 4 months, which is basically what he's done. And you said when he's played Tielemans with Mendy, he's had Tielemans monitoring Mendy. I just, like I say, as much as I love Brendan, I do think sometimes, and I will be mad if they are not fit for Thursday, I will blame Brendan, because we have had players. Brunt came on today, so he could have easily come on. A second game of the season. I'm sorry, if they are not fit for Tuesday, the blame is 100% at Brendan's at Brendan's door, because we have got players that could have replaced them.
Yeah, I suppose when you think about it like that, I just guess that there's obviously some mistrust there, but it's something we've been discussing for several weeks about certain players, some very baffling themes of mistrust as well. So I would be like you, if they are injured for that game, then yeah, but I'd also maybe think that maybe Brendan did want to rest them before, but the players he wanted and trust more for whatever reason weren't available to come in. But yeah, I guess if Brunt's coming on against Tottenham when it's 3-0, and he could have come on, to change the game up against Everton and against Villa and against Newcastle, these players could be coming in because it's something that has become a very enjoyable thing to see from Leicester. But we have started to see that near this back end of the season, players that Brendan has got an eye on that are impressing in the under-23s are getting game time. We've seen it over the years with our youth production. So yeah, I could argue that maybe I'm in agreement with you about Brunt maybe has always been an option if that's the case, if he was willing to chuck him on.
No, he is. And Chowdhury as well. Like I say, he's been on the bench. And you can't, I'm sorry, as a manager, I mean, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Of course we don't. We don't know what goes on the training camp. But, when you're blowing smoke up somebody's arse as much as Brendan was after those 2 games, I can't remember, and did say who the first game was just before Liverpool, possibly Man United, I'm not sure. Then the Liverpool game, you can't do that and then not he disappears when indeed he gets injured. I just don't understand Brendan's thinking sometime. Chester Leicester, hello, how the devil are you, sir? How did Daka play? I heard he did hit the post. He was very unlucky. And if that goes in,
Great fingertip save actually by Lloris, because if he doesn't get the fingertips on him, it probably hits the post and go in.
Yes, it does. Scott says at any point over the last 3 games before today, we could have played either the academy players or the likes of Chowdhury, etc., that have been given game time. And good evening to Helen. How the devil are you? I hope you are well. I mean, looking at that, I like to say it's a bit of a weird one because I'm not mad because I say it was Tottenham, and we never seem to win against Tottenham these days. And obviously, I want the best players to be available. So I knew the check for Roma. So I knew the changes were going to come. Looking at I'm looking at that there. And Martin Shoyanchu, I mean, none of them did anything wrong majorly. I wouldn't say any of them were worse than anybody else. But for me, I've got to pick out Samari there. I mean, yes, it was, probably when he's been finally back to full fitness. But I thought he had a half decent game.
Yeah, I did. Again, yes, the scoreline reads 3-1, but it wasn't a game that sort of matched the course of the 90 minutes. Because Spurs, despite our tempo completely going off the boil in the second half, it wasn't like Spurs were laid siege to our goal. They had 5 chances, 5 on target, and scored 3 of them. And something that Leicester fans got very familiar with doing themselves for the last 2 seasons. It's something that I'll touch on in the tactic segment, but it's just one of them. Unfortunately, we seem they're our biggest Achilles heel. They're so much of Achilles heel. They affect both our Achilles because they just took their chances. You could argue it was the wrong time to play Spurs. We've got one eye on a European competition. Spurs, that's where you play teams across Europe, and Spurs have gone 2 games without a shot on target. They're probably doing backflips when they realised they were playing us for the 3rd game because they thought, well, surely we're going to at least see a shot on goal today. Yes. And that turned out to be the case.
And as I say, I can't get too annoyed because to me it was a free hit. I mean, the overall performance of that Leicester side. I mean, we are playing a Tottenham who, let's be honest with you, they're a top 5 team at the moment because they're sat there, depending on what happens at Arsenal. And to be going honest with you, 30 minutes into the West Ham Arsenal game, there was no shots on goal in that game after 30 minutes. So we can't complain too much.
No.
But, when I saw that team, in fairness, if that was to start against a Norwich or a Watford, you'd think that they would beat them.
Yeah, in fact, you look at the you know, and I know it's there. The aggressive way we played with that formation, you'd probably expect us to wipe the floor with most of the Premier League with that. But, you know, not just a Norwich, it's all probably a Southampton, you know, and a Brighton. You know, you'd think that team would go at a team and cause them all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, you definitely would. I mean, I don't know what's happened to Brighton. They're like getting the second win, aren't they? You know.
Yeah. Well, maybe now Graham Potter's, you know, passed over from Hogwarts. He's learned to advance his magic a bit, because Brighton have got that second win, and it's annoying in a way, because I wish we could have found it, because you're talking again. We're talking about a free hit, and again, take the fact that we've got Roma out the equation. It would still be a free hit. But you're now looking at this. I don't know what's happening in the West Ham game. I've had an Arsenal fan send me a little shades smile, so I'm guessing Arsenal are winning. But you look at them and their points, and you just think, had we applied the same way that we played against Roma and in that first 55 minutes against Tottenham today, had we managed to apply that against Villa, Newcastle and Everton, it makes it even more frustrating that this is even more of a free hit for the case of we literally have nothing to play for. It's a free hit knowing that, oh, well, if West Ham lose, we'd only be 3-4 points off them with a game in hand. And it makes this season even more frustrating to witness this back end, because it's just, I don't know, it's just something that's frustrated me, the way we're kind of going out without a fight to a degree, in a weird sense. In
1-1 again between West Ham and Arsenal. David's just agreed there, and it's a case of Holding got Arsenal's goal after 38, and Bowen equalised for Arsenal on the 45th minute. So that's 1-1 at the moment. We've done our bit, Arsenal. What more do you want? You know what I mean? Let's just go through some questions here very quickly. Where are we? Where do you see Leicester going from here? Can they win the Europa Conference, or is the season's over for them? For me, it's a cup game, Helen. I think the league is possibly over for us, because we're just going to finish mid-table. But, you know, let's say we finish 10th and we've got a semi-final place if we don't go through in a European competition. If we hadn't had the last 2 seasons, we'd have been rubbing our hands saying, what a great season.
Yeah, we would have. And again, it's something that maybe needs to be reaffirmed when people, you know, lost their heads over the last 3 months about essentially getting rid of Brendan and replacing him. Is, you know, we won. And again, people are going to go, here we go, they mentioned the league. Because Leicester fans are apparently infamous for only mentioning 2 things: winning the league and playing in League One. But when you have a point of reference, you have to refer to these points. And when we won the league, we went on a bit of a cold boil, didn't we? Where we would have, like you said, had we not won the league, we'd probably been happy with 8th, 9th place finishes, which is more than acceptable to do in the Premier League. You're probably achieving well above the means of survival, and you're putting a good fight in to climb up that table progressively over seasons to come. And since Brendan's come in, we've got to a League Cup semi-final, we've won the FA Cup, and we're in a Europa League semi-final. And again, I'm with you. Even if it doesn't go the way we hope, even if we get to the final and lose, you'd still, if you'd have told me in August, here's what's going to happen to your team, it's going to get decimated by injuries, and that's your journey, I'd have gone, I'm looking forward to the journey. You know, I'm looking forward to it, because I see that as progression, because people seem to think it's so simple to handle 4 competitions on the forefront, and it really isn't. And I know Leicester went out early in the FA Cup, and in the, you know, we got to the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. Missed out on that, to be perfectly honest. Now, if we're looking back over it, we probably missed out on a chance to maybe lift the League Cup this season. But we've showed that there's a squad that's so young and developing that if this was your benchmark for this season, I'm very happy to say, right, for the next 2 or 3 seasons, if that's the benchmark we're setting, it's not a bad benchmark to be at. I'd rather
it's almost like It's almost like we won the league too soon, if you like, because
we're doing it in reverse and kind of getting the middle now, sort of thing.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Helen's just made a very good point here. Does it do clubs any favours by having more Europe League fixtures? Or is it a waste of time? It isn't a waste of time, but it doesn't. Arsenal, where Arsenal are now, and Arsenal fans will admit this, because they haven't had Europe. Had they had Europe, they may not be fighting for fourth place. Had Tottenham still been in Europe, they might not be where they are now at the moment. If they'd gone as far as us in the conference and hadn't got chucked out. Man United, obviously they're just shit whether they're in Europe or not. Sorry, Mike. Sorry, but they are. But I mean, for me, you've got to want more games. If you want your team to do well, you can't say, well, I want to finish 8th so we don't have Europe and we'll have another go at winning the league. You've got to want to play in all these competitions. That's why you have the big squads. And it certainly helped us when we won the Premier League that we weren't in Europe and all the teams around us were. Of course it does, because we're playing less games. I mean, we got knocked out both cups quite early on that season. And we didn't have Europe. We only had to worry about one game a week. But if you're going to be successful, you're going to have more games to worry about. But a question for you, and I'll let you answer this one, seeing as I've answered that one. Do you see Rodgers being sacked at the end of the season, says Helen?
No, I don't see why anybody would. And the reason being for that is their owners, unlike some owners that get protested and toilet roll and that cabbage is thrown at them. Well, that's more Steve Bruce, but still. The owners have got sense. They're very good. They're very gracious. They've learned from their own mistakes. They've learned from their own impatience. Because, again, let's not forget that when they came in, they were like Watford. They were firing them and bringing managers in through the door, left, right and centre. Granted, we had that really dodgy period where clearly managers were only here for a few games to boost them and then they'll piddling off like Megson. But they've learned to kind of assess it as a whole. And if if fans are sat here going 10th in the Europa League semi-final minimum, and that's again without knowing the outcome for next week, I think the owners would go, you know what, considering everything he's had to deal with, considering everything that the club's had to go through and what them players have had to deal with and take on, and try their best not to suffer with burnout, because that's one of the most mentally difficult things to do as a footballer. I think they'll sit there and go, you know what? Okay, next year, fully fit squad. People keep saying, let's see what Leicester do when they're fully fit and what Brendan can really do with them.
I agree with you. And, to me, with Rodgers as well, he's and managers don't get the time that they used to. And don't get me wrong, we're never going to see another Fergie or another Arsene Wenger, where they're there sort of for 20 odd years. I can't just see that happening again. Maybe Watford. No, I can't see that happening again. But Brendan's got a project here that he's doing. He's bringing the young players through, which is obviously one of his attributes. And to my mind, if we now sack him. Yes, if we're having a really bad season, then we're down sort of 16th, 17th, playing. Then we reevaluate. But to me, if we get rid of him now, we're just wasting the last couple of seasons almost, because new manager comes in, doesn't like player A, B, or C, so he goes, plays a different formation, so E, F, and G's got to go, and you're literally starting from scratch again. I don't see it. Like Mike says there, with everything that has occurred during the season, you're 2 wins away from winning the European Cup. It's very true, Mike. It is very true. And David says here, I think it's fair to say that on balance, more positives from today's game than negatives. With so many changes, we still had Spurs on the back foot for a lot, and we were lucky with Daka near miss. 100%, David, 100%. If we'd gone out, let's say, and lost to Arsenal today with that, we might be having a different conversation, but no, and certainly not for me, Brendan going. The Leicester model is a football status, not a business to an extent. Get what you're saying. We need to sign Lookman and Nani to beat Spurs. And Helen says, the reason why I said that comment, Chris, is that there are many teams who qualify for Europe but can't make the step up and go any further. No, I accept your point. I wasn't having a go at you, Helen. I totally 100%, because I should have mentioned this and I didn't, but you look at the likes of Burnley when they qualified for the Europa League, they struggled the following season. Wolves kind of did as well. There's a lot of clubs that have got there. I think we were probably one of the first few that didn't, apart from the big six, because the big six have got the bigger squads and what have you.
And you also have to include, if you go even just slightly further back than that, you have to remember what happened to the likes of Leeds and Fulham. Fulham are kicking the ball around in the Championship, being the next, lining up to be the next Norwich. They're getting the yo-yos out. Leeds spent years in the Championship and down in the dolls of League One, and they haven't really recovered from it. They're maybe just about, although Everton's results probably dragged them back into it again. Leeds, Burnley. You look where them three clubs, and you're talking three former European clubs, whether it was only in one season or not. Everton, Leeds, and Burnley play. Look where they are now, and if Leicester can kind of, like you said, if you want to be a top six club, you can't have your cake and then decide not to eat it by deciding actually we want a year out of European football because we can't handle it. You've got to go, no, we want European football. We might not get it through the league, but we want to win a cup. I mean, you can't win a cup and then go, oh, thanks for the Europa League. Let's say we beat Marseille or Feyenoord in the final after beating Roma, and we can't just go, oh well, thanks, but we don't want to. No, we don't want the Europa League football. We want to concentrate on qualifying for it in the league way. No, you're going to go again, and you're going to play in the Europa League, and you're going to play in the Carabao Cup, and you're going to play in the FA Cup and the league, and you're playing on all four fronts, because if you want to be the best, you've got to be able to compete with the best, and that, you don't see. Well, maybe Jurgen Klopp, but he blames the snow, wind, rain, and the length of the grass. But minus him aside, these clubs as a whole, and we're talking your Arsenals, we're talking your Spurses, and we're talking your Manchester's clubs, and your Liverpool's hierarchy at least, want them competing on all four fronts. They want them leading the way, and the reason they're so successful as clubs, in periods or not, or right now, whichever way it is because they always compete on these four fronts more times than not. We've had the ambiguous years and the moments where they've thrown the toys out of pram, but success brings more competition.
It does, and that's the thing. And I hadn't realised that Leeds are well back in it now. If Everton win the game in hand, they can actually jump over Leeds. But looking at the teams today, I mean, they've got there. If we look at it as Son as man of the match, and in fairness, I probably couldn't argue much about that. Our man of the match there, Inacho. I mean, he did take his goal well, didn't he?
Yeah, he don't often like hitting a ball from the edge of the box past Tottenham. I think he's got about 5 or 6 goals past Spurs from that sort of range before. And this one hit the inside of the post and went in. And Reece didn't get anywhere near it. And it's amazing what happens, Chris. I don't know. I feel like I had a dream where we played about 20 or 30 games last season with 2 up front. It's amazing what happens when you switch to a 2 up front.
I did say to you, didn't I? Because I don't know whether I was awake when I thought I messaged this to you, but I think I sent you a text before the game saying, "Oh, we actually got 2 up front."
Yeah, and I was looking at it before I went onto the Sky website, and I thought the same. I thought, oh, he's gone 2 up front. He's going Daka and Iheanacho up front, and it wasn't.
I think Ant said if there was 5 different sites, they all had 5 different formations. It was well confusing. But let's go through the team there. Schmeichel, was he at fault for any of the goals?
No, not really.
I don't think he was.
He was nearly at fault for a goal, but that didn't come to fruition. Thankfully, Castagne bailed him out when he tried to catch that corner. But he also stopped them scoring from a Mendy horror back pass, didn't he? Which, I don't think Casper did anything wrong. There's sod all he can do about either of Son's goal, and they haven't been able to defend from corners all season. So I'm not laying the blame for that. But no, Casper was fine for me for the goals.
You could not, excuse me, you could not blame that. No goalkeeper was getting Son second. I don't care, even if Vestergaard at 6'7" was a goalkeeper, he wouldn't have got to that,
I mean that cliche. You could have had two of him and diving for it, and they wouldn't have saved it. It was that.
Yeah, that is true. Castagna and Thomas. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I hate that. When you're waiting. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Castagna. I don't know. We're saying Thomas probably didn't get as forward as he usually does, but maybe that was Spurs keeping him in check. I thought Castagna was okay as well.
Castagna was fairly decent. He made some vital blocks and covered the pitch well when Leicester were maybe caught out or a defender was out of position. He does that quite well. He goes unnoticed, actually. He does come inside a lot to fill that gap if one of the defenders is caught out of position. Luke Thomas was okay. You already know that I'll touch on him later, but there is some concerns I have about Thomas that haven't really been fixed ever since he came in and made his debut. Ironically, I think he made his debut against Spurs, didn't he, for Leicester? I could be wrong.
I'm not sure.
Someone might correct me. But it might just be Spurs he doesn't like playing, because I think last time he got caught out was quite a bit nervy on the ball against Spurs. So I have a few qualms with him, but for the majority of it, he was all right, wasn't he?
Yeah. And Martin Soyuncu, I mean, I thought Soyuncu had a decent game, and
again, it wasn't like it was an absolute panicked mess like the defence was in the home leg or in other games previous where we've been at 6s, 7s with Soyuncu and Martin. Again, same mistakes from corners and two wonder goals from a brilliant goal and a wonder goal from aside. The defence really didn't make that many mistakes.
No,
we actually probably kept the ball and didn't give it away as much as we have done in recent weeks. And unfortunately, we just got punished by Spurs when they had the shot.
It's funny that I sat there thinking, had we not got Thursday coming up, I'd be probably more annoyed. Bad you, if I got Thursday coming up, that wouldn't have been the team. Brighton and Perez. Your thoughts on them? Because again, I mean, it's funny because I've just had 90 minutes of Anthony going on about Perez is his poster boy. He really does like Perez. And I have to be honest with you, he didn't have an awful game.
No, he didn't. Unfortunately, Perez suffered with the same problem that all Brighton had. In the first half, he was a lot more in the game. He was a lot more involved. It felt like that all Brighton and him were switching wings every so often. And to be honest with you, the only reason he started to get shut out of the match was because we went down that side more predominantly, and Spurs were able to read it and surround him a bit quicker. But again, he had a fairly solid performance, which is nice to see if he's going to become that that utility player that comes on every so often. I'm probably using the word utility wrong. I feel like I am, but you know what I mean. Like someone who comes on and does a job for you. All Brighton. Look, we know what All Brighton does. He's not blessed with pace in his 30s. He never really was, probably in his 20s, to be honest with you. But he did a job. He puts in quality balls. But if you're going to use All Brighton, then in the summer we need to invest in a bit of height in our team, because he's putting in quality balls to 5-foot-nothing players, unfortunately. Balls that if we had Vestergaard playing as Walsh up front, like we did about.
Say that. I knew when it was a free kick and O'Brien was taking it. I did say to Ant, I did say, we need Vestergaard up front for this one,
Yeah, maybe that's a tactic we can adapt going forward, where we whack Vestergaard on the back.
Samare and Mendy.
Reliable, did the job, cleaned up the mess, minus that heart-in-mouth back pass that Schmeichel made a.
Yeah.
We just had a lot of praise on Schmeichel, because before Kane had a chance to think, Schmeichel was at him and he was diving, and he'd already practically made the save before Kane knocked through. He hurried Kane into shooting there, when normally if the keeper's any slower off his line, he drags the ball wide of him and has an empty net to sat it into. But minus that, Mendy and Samari for me were quite good to watch and quite good, especially in that first half, but going forward as a unit.
Yes, indeed. And Inacho and Daka playing together.
Oh, mate, it's amazing what two strikers up front together actually can do. Because I thought again, and I know it's going to be the talking point of this game until that second goal. We were quite aggressive on that front foot, and we got the ball to them a lot quicker where they prefer to have it a lot further up the field. You know, I don't remember a time, especially in that first half, where I saw Daka or Iheanacho picking up the ball too deep in the Spurs half to be able to do anything, or picking it up where they like to get it. And Daka, oh God, he couldn't catch a break, could he? Just when you probably need a really decent goal to really up his confidence, and fingertips deny him. But it was nice to see our front two, that's two, front two, being creative and causing Spurs a lot of issues because they pressed the occasion quite well, didn't they?
Yeah, no, and I'm not. I'm holding my criticism of Daka back because if this was Vardy, we would not even be thinking or questioning him in, and that is totally unfair because we've seen Daka score 4 in Europe in one game. We've seen, we know the fact that he's won a league, so it's just a case of it clicking for him. And I'm not going to get on his back at all. And Helen asked me a question, which I'll come to your questions at the end, Helen. So bear with me, I've starred them, but I'm not going to get on his back on that one, to be honest with you, because I think he doesn't deserve it. But it is now, and I think if Brad's ready, we're going to try something new this week, which probably means it'll fall flat on its face.
No doubt. No doubt.
Like a broken egg. Let's just get... I'd got a jingle. Here we go, Brad. Let's get this going. No, we shouldn't. That's not the one I was thinking of. I just saw your name.
Take two.
There we go. Take two. And he's stripping off ready. This is Brad Tactics moment. No longer aboard. We're almost catching up with Sky, but not quite, but almost. And I just hope that I can do the job right for you when you tell me. So we'll start there with slide 1, and I'll leave you to give us an appraisal of the whole game, Brad.
Yeah. Right. Well, I need to be able to see that myself. Unfortunately, the slide won't allow me to make it bigger. But as you can see there, that was the starting lineup. And it looks quite defensive with Mendy and Samore holding that midfield line. And that allowed actually for Leicester to press quite well. You may be thinking it was a bit defensive on that forefront. It may have suggested that we was going to play the game like we did when we played Liverpool at the King Power and be every man and their dog behind the ball and Leicester going forward. But what that actually allowed in terms of the tactic in that first half was for Leicester to actually be defensive and aggressive at the same time. If we just go over here to the next slide, you'll see, if Chris can just click us on lovely. Yeah, we were defensive aggression is what I'd like to call it. It was quite aggressive. In the first half, Leicester really didn't get out of their own half off the ball. And what that actually made was instead of sitting back and having like a 5-6 man, what are you doing? Well, how's he done? He's trying to disrupt me tactics like a man going down on the pitch and rolling around for 10 minutes trying to waste time. But yeah, Leicester didn't really get out of their own half. But instead of sitting back in a line of like 7 or 8 or 9, as he's fiddling around with it here, I give him the skills to edit it, and this is what I come up with, ladies and gentlemen. He's gone back to the starting 11 now. What has he done? Chris, you've messed it up. There you go. So Leicester really sat with a full front line of Perez, Daka, Iheanacho, and Albrighton on the halfway line, ready for the press, with Samore slightly more forward, but still defensively minded. And as you can see there, Mendy tucking in to that defensive line in between Soyuncu and Amati, which allowed a bit more freedom towards Thomas and Castagna, allowing them to get forward. And what that meant was, in the first half, what we saw a lot of, which may have surprised people, it certainly seemed to surprise Tottenham and Conte in the first half, was, as you'll see in the next slide over here, slide number 3, is that when Leicester went forward, they were really deep and really committing men forward into that half. It allowed for Soyuncu and Amate to sat halfway inside their own half to control that to control any loose balls and to reset the attack if necessary. Mendy was allowed to push forward just inside the Spurs half, and the likes of Samore was in line with the likes of Thomas and Castagna, who pushed up from the wing backs position. And that almost meant that Leicester had 4 men at the edge and inside Spurs' box on a high line press. That meant that Perez and Albrighton were alongside Daka and Iheanacho in that first half. And if Leicester got the ball forward enough, quick enough, which they did quite well in that first half, Leicester had 6 men going forward in the middle and 4 out wide. So they had the options to spread it quickly and got right in behind there. And for the first half, Leicester doing that was absolutely brilliant. They flooded that midfield. They stretched Spurs. Spurs were at 6s and 7s chasing the ball. And Leicester were able to keep a shape that even when it reverted back and had to be reset, if Spurs did have enough bodies in, they weren't going all the way back to Casper with it. They were sitting quite high in their own half and trying to ping a ball around to get in behind. And some very precise, pacey play with their passing helped Leicester do that quite a lot. And we saw that with the Daka opportunity. That's fair enough. We'll work on it. It's a work in progress, Mike. But in the second half, I want to point out one player that caused me a few issues and caused Leicester a few issues, but not for the right reasons. So you'll see here on the next slide. We'll have to work on the zoom in image on it. But on the next slide here, you might not be able to read it. It's the trouble with Thomas. Now, a few seasons ago, we used Ben Chilwell as a scapegoat. And as you can see there, I don't know if I can pinch in the screen so I can see it, but you guys might need to pinch and zoom in the screen to see what I can see to make it a bit clearer. As a left back and as a left wing back in the top half of the screen, Thomas looks very comfortable. But it's when he's in that middle, of the pitch, by the halfway line, he gets caught out. He seems to get very static. He seems to put his foot on top of the ball and look around for his options. He's not as free running as he normally is when he's linking up. When we see the link up play with Justin Barnes on that side, you see it's very free flowing. He'll knock the ball on and then he'll run. He'll run past Barnes and he'll give him that overlap, or he'll go on the inside to give him that underlap and allow Barnes to go on outside. Thomas needs to probably be a bit more understanding in that. He needs to be a bit more decisive and he needs to know what to do, because he got a silly yellow card, which had he actually made contact, he would have got a straight red. It was from behind, it was reckless, it was a slide, he panicked, and it cost us a lot of possession of the ball and really took the sting out of some of our attacks when he was found in the middle. So if we go into the last slide that's got the pictures of it, this is the thing that we were screaming out for since the start of the season, really, the end of last season, the way it worked. 2 up front came way too late, and it's the only aggressive attack that Leicester had in that second half. And obviously, I wasn't able to edit the players in time because it wasn't Perez, but we had Brunt and you had Albrighton, and you also had Tielemans just behind that attack line. But in terms of the front 4, we had 2 wingers, left and right, and we had Nacho and Vardy up front. And when that happened, Spurs, maybe a case of being 3-0 up, took the foot completely off the gas, that helped it. But that was the only time, and it took 88 minutes for us to have a chance to really express that. Well, we got in behind Spurs again, we was on the front foot, and we showed that we've got that ball forward and got in behind that Spurs midfield, that we could be aggressive and get a goal from it. And in the end, a Vardy header and a Nacho goal were the only 2 chances we created. But it wasn't until that 75th, 80 minutes that we switched that 2 up front. And you could clearly see it was a 2 up front by that stage because Daka was off the pitch. And Nacho was no longer dropping back. He was being told to hold a high line. And I just feel that if we take this shape, which is where we have our wingers sneaking wide and we have Nacho alongside Vardy or Daka alongside Vardy or wherever, we have a consistent front 2. And if we do that, we'll do well. And finally, on to the last slide, the summary of it all. As you can see, the summary, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, the good was the first half. We was quick at passing. We was aggressive, not just on, but off the ball. We was pressing them well. We were forcing their back line into mistakes. We were winning the ball high up the pitch. You know, we was quick on that press. And we actually flooded the midfield, something that previous teams that have played Tottenham and got results from them did very, very well. The bad was in the second half, we completely lost that tempo. The tempo was very poor. It dropped a gear. We were poor in the pressing. And we was very predictable again. In the first half, we interchanged our wingers. And in doing that, we were very unpredictable of which side we was going to go down, whether it was Castagna on the right, whether it was Perez on the left, whether it was Perez on the right, whether it was switching it to Albrighton, who switched over to the left. In the second half, we were very one-dimensional. What was very ugly, first of all, was our panic. We panicked when we were pressed in that second half. When Tottenham realised we were being lackadaisical at the back and they finally decided to press us, we panicked so much. And that Mendy mistake in the first half was the first sign of things to come, really, because that's when they nearly, and really, Kane should have scored there. You know, we were sloppy when we were closed down, and we were far too slow moving that ball forward in the second half. You know, they say opposites attract, but opposites did not attract in comparison to how we pressed and how aggressive we were in our defensive aggression in the first half to the second half. It was the worst scenario case of a game of 2 halves because we lost that identity. And you could tell by the frustration on Brendan's face that it was not what he was asking the players to do. And it's something that's been a consistent theme for this season that needs to get changed by next season. We need to be consistently, as much as possible, like that good column, as you can read there. We need to be aggressive. We need to press them well. We need to push them back. We need to push them all over the field. We need to be precise with our passing, and we need to be pacey with it. The complete opposite is where our mistakes come, and it's where the goals come from. Minus a world-class effort, that's where the goals came from. And that, Chris, is where Leicester got it right and wrong today.
And a very good analysis of the game, Brad. We are working forward with this. It's just a case of us tweaking it so that we can get it big. But I've got a few ideas, and we'll be speaking with Brad.
Yeah, I mean, what I might do is scrap the title and make the pitch fill the whole slide. Like, you see how this word is quite clear.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll have a talk about it after. And we'll be right back to finish it off the show straight after this. There we go. Thank you very much. If you haven't yet already, please get over to YouTube, Leicester TV, and give us a subscribe, like the video, and share it if you can. I mean, looking at that, I mean, we know possession doesn't mean anything, but just to sort of round the stats off there, we had it 60-40. Expected goals, well, yeah. Total shots 13-6. I think I'd be going more mad about this, like I say, if we hadn't got the game on Thursday. Mike says here, great analysis, mate. Nice one. And David says, I like this segment because you cover a lot of the parts of the game that I don't notice, whilst I'm holding for Leicester to do better. It is, yeah. It makes more sense than most what do they call them? Experts, for want of a better word. So, I mean, let's just have a look what we've got coming up here. So, These were the score predictions. Yeah, I went wrong again. Marshy went wrong. Walshy went wrong. Jerry Taggart got the right end, and so did Ian Wilson. And Steve Lynitz is 4-0. You wouldn't know from that how much he hated Tottenham, would you?
No, don't sit on the fence, Steve.
No, not at all. And then where are we? I'm not sure whether I've got it. Did I upload it? No. Overall, I mean, would you be more mad if we weren't playing Roma at the weekend? Oh, in the midweek?
Would I be more mad if we were playing Roma in the midweek?
If we weren't playing Roma and we just had that performance?
Yeah and no. Again, it's hard. It's only easy to speak in hindsight because we've seen it now. But again, do we play that starting 11 with no Europa League game? Probably not. We probably don't rest KDH. Brendan probably refuses to drop his players because he thinks they're machines and not human beings that need a rest. But again, we didn't. Again, until they got that sucker punch of a second goal. And even the first goal, really, even the commentators were saying that Leicester were controlling that game. And it did ring, true to the performance that we gave at the King Power against Roma. And if you want to take all the positives from that game, which was the performance up until the hour mark, was if we play like that going forward, and I'm not just talking the end of the season, but we bring that into the next season with the tempo and the pressing rate, and I really do feel that we've got a lot to look forward to going into next season.
Yes,
playing that way.
Yeah, like I say, I think sometimes every team has an off season, and if an off season leaves us with a European trophy, then let's have more of them.
Yeah, I'll gladly have more 10th place finishes if we're winning trophies every season. I'm sure there's some Spurs fans out there that would love to win one.
Yeah, well, most of them, I think, to be honest with you.
Yes. Yeah, Arsenal. Yeah, they'd all swap.
As you know, we always ask Alan Bennett, Leicester Till I Die blogger, at the match. He always goes to home and away when he can, and he sees the game, and as soon as he walks out of the stadium, he sends me a text with his man of the match and his player ratings. And obviously he sees a lot more than we do, because we only see what the camera's showing. He sees a lot of off ball play, etc. But this is how he's done this match. So he gave the manager 4, he gave the team 5, and he made man of the match was, for him, Leicester's man of the match was Timothy Castagna. Thoughts on that, Brad?
It's a hard game to judge because
he said that. In fairness, he did say that, yes.
Yeah, there wasn't really any standout performances from either. Well, Son, sorry, I'll take that back. Son was a standout performance in his own little world. But it wasn't anybody really. You're not talking like Kane or Son. Apart from Son, you're not talking like Kane ran the show or Vardy played really well or Mendy did really well. They didn't do really bad either on these players. And the reason I mentioned Kane is because I'm thinking collectively, like no one from Spurs either, really minus Son, stood out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
You might be inclined to give it Kelechi Iheanacho because he's the only one that did anything of positiveness for Leicester in terms of getting a goal. But 5 and 4, I feel the manager felt a little bit let down because, again, and I know it's a term I've used quite a lot this show, but it happens in football. That second goal just seemed to kill the tempo of what Brendan Rodgers was asking from the lads, and they weren't able to ever regain that. And it got a bit sloppy. So 4, 5. I probably would have given them either 4s or 5s both, but I'm not. That's nitpicking, And I said I told our fans about nitpicking against Roma results, so I'm going to agree with Alan and say he's right with his ratings there and not nitpicking.
Yeah,
I mean
that's it. I don't think that the team were brilliant, but they weren't bad. And did the manager sort of get it reasonably right with the substitutions? Guess he didn't particularly do it wrong, like you say. I mean, I'm just looking at him now and he's sort of saying, he bemoans the fact that there were cheap goals we gave away. Yes, they were. And maybe he does need to work on that for next season. We're back to conceding from a corner. The funny thing is, looking on the BBC website, which is the one where the fans vote for it, they've got Schmeichel as our man of the match.
I mean, he made a few good saves that probably kept the scoreline respectable. But again, you probably not for the reasons we were hoping, but you probably could have, to a degree, picked anybody from that side as your man of the match. Because whilst no one had a bad game, again, nobody really set the world alight apart from Son, literally. And again, something they're going to have to work on. Something they're going to have to work on in the off-season. We're talking about adding depth and maybe clearing out a few players that aren't quite at the top 6 level, which Leicester are professing to be, which I'm sure we'll discuss and do a show on afterwards, but in the off-season. But maybe there's a defensive coach that needs to be added to it. Maybe there's a set-piece specialist we need to bring in. We need to look... Not
said,
just
when Fofana came back and scored the goal against Rennes, and I think it was his first game back and he scored the goal, he made a point of going over to Colo, didn't he? And really, so maybe there's more to it than we say. Brunt got our votes as the worst player at 4.19, which I think is probably again a bit harsh, but there we go. It was nice to see another youngster coming through, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah, it was. Again, philosophy-wise.
David says to you, Brad, one of these days when you have time, it would be interesting for you to contrast us with 2 up front and no Barnes or true wingers versus 1 up front and more width with players we currently have. Well, there's a challenge for you. There is a challenge for you.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'll design one and try and spot the difference, if you will.
Yeah. And you'll need probably more than 6 slides to get through that.
Maybe.
Brad, thank you so much, mate. I'll let you go. What I'll do is I'll message you in a bit regarding what we can do regarding the graphics. But I mean, they worked, and I do like them.
No worries, mate. I'm glad everybody appreciates it. And it's a pleasure as always being on here, mate, even if the result's not a pleasure to see.
I know. And I've got to say this through gritted teeth. Give my best to Chloe.
I will do, although my dad's supporting Wolves, so the one I prefer more won that game, so I'm happy.
You've got to say that, haven't you? Yeah. I know, mate, I know, but you've still got to say it, Brad, mate, thank you very much. Have a good weekend. I will see you on Tuesday night for the prediction show.
Yes, you will. Things are hot enough, aren't they?
Don't ask.
I don't think. Oh, there you go. Clock chiming in right on time. What I was going to say, I'll move away so everybody can still hear me while that's going on. I was going to say, I don't think it's changed the leaderboard, but it's definitely made things interesting, hasn't it?
It has made it interesting. Yes, indeed. And on that note, I'm going to say, no doubt you remind me on Tuesday. But thanks a lot, mate. Yeah, no have a good one, and thanks for that and the tactics and everything. Take care.
No worries, mate.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right, so Helen, let's have a look. I did say I'd come back to your questions, didn't I? So, Chris, what have you made of players like Samare and Daka? Do you think they are Premier status? I think we've got to give them time, Helen. I mean, I've said this quite a few times that when you sign a player from abroad, remember we're not buying a Ronaldo or a Cavani, that's been around, that's got the experience. We are buying these younger players. Both of them are title winners from their respective countries. I've just got to think we've got to give them a little bit longer to bed in. This hasn't been a good season for players bedding in, as you saw, because they've had to play different roles. They've had to play with different players. So I'm not actually thinking that it hasn't really been a good season for them to bed in. I mean, Fofana he's completely. I mean, it's sink or swim, and he threw in. We threw him in the deep end, and he swam. And what a swimmer he's proving to be. But, Daka, we know he's got it in him. 4 against Moscow. We know he can score. So, let's give them time. And Sumare, excuse me, he's not really had the game time, but he's had his injuries, he's had his problems, he's had a few personal problems. They've got to settle into a different country, a different style of football. And look at him today. As I say, wasn't a 10 out of 10 performance, but in all fairness, he didn't have a bad performance. So, I think they will come good, but we can't always expect all of these players to hit the ground running like that. And your next question, excuse me, I'll just have a drink of water. Oh, who's replaced that with gin? I have no idea. I'm joking. What do you think will be a success for Leicester come the end of the season? And do you think Leicester have improved under Rodgers? Yes, we have. We've definitely improved under Rodgers. I think he's probably the best manager we've had for a long time. Ranieri was good, and I would have Ranieri's babies. I'm not going to lie, but he kind of rode on the coattails of Nigel Pearson, because had Nigel Pearson not done what he'd done the season before, Ranieri probably wouldn't have won us the league, but he would have done all right for us, which he'd have maybe got us 5th, 6th, whatever. After that, we kind of struggled. I touched on it earlier. Did success come too early? I mean, we all love the success, but did it come too early? And then, of course, we went through a few managers. Well, we didn't like his, time with us. But it's only when people have gone that you kind of say, yeah, they probably actually did more than we give them credit for. I mean, with Puel, we were very much moaning about his, like I say, style of play, but he brought quite a few of the youngsters through. He brought Barnes back. So, maybe he has to just be given a little bit of credit, which maybe he hasn't. So, but if we finish 10th, I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, I'm going to be point blank here. With everything that's gone on this season, with all the injuries and everything like that, if we can finish 9th or 10th and be in the semi-final of the Europa Conference, for me, that hasn't been a bad season with everything that's gone on. So, it would be nice to win. You're not sick, Chris? No, I'm not. I just needed some lubrication. Do you see it as desperation, Chris, at all, clutching at straws? I don't know what you're referring to there, as to what is desperation, clutching at straws. Just elaborate on that. You've had quite a few managers, not as many as Watford, though. Nobody's had as many as Watford. They change their manager more often than some people change their underwear. I mean, and it doesn't work for them. Got rid of the manager that brought them up when they were sat in 12th, and where are they now? And look, I was watching the Watford-Burnley game, and when Burnley scored, Roy couldn't even get out of the out of his chair. He was that old, or just was that resigned to going down. I don't know. With our transfers, no, I don't. I don't think at all. If you look, we've got Sumari, who may be coming in. He's very much a box-to-box midfielder. If we're going to be losing Tillemans, he could not. Him and KDH together may mean we don't need to spend as much as we would have done to get another midfielder in. Daka, he is bedding in because Vardy's not going to go on forever, and soon we will see Vardy playing the last 20 minutes, coming on for the last 20 minutes, being that super sub when the defenders are knackered and he comes on with his speed for 20 minutes, but he won't be able to do a full 90. Look at Soyuncu. I mean, when we sold Maguire, I don't know how much we got for him, some ridiculous price some team paid. Sorry, Mike. But we sold him. Soyuncu came in, and it was like we'd never been away. It was seamless. It really was, but he'd had that time to come and bed in. And I think what Leicester do, where a lot of clubs don't, we are proactive towards our transfers rather than reactive. We look at it and we go, yeah, okay, maybe Tielemans is going to go on this date. We need to be thinking about getting somebody in to play, to play in his position. So that's, I think, was why when you look at these players, Soyuncu, if he'd have played that first season, he probably wouldn't have been any good. But he'd had that season to bed in. Harry Maguire went, he came in and was as good. Well, you could argue that he might be better than him at the moment. Are we going on a tour pre-season? I suppose it depends on COVID and what happens. We sometimes go abroad and have a bit of a training camp abroad. We generally tend to sort of play, because we're the only club in the county. We tend to sort of support the smaller clubs around and play them, and then have one big visitor. To, like we had Barcelona, Real Madrid, etc. in the past, have one big visitors for a game. Last question here, Helen, because my voice is going. What's happening with Vardy? Is he in or out next season, like retiring? No, he can. I mean, you look at him. I mean, he's 34, 35. He can still outrun most of us in 100 meters. I tell you. Like I say, he will slowly. He stopped playing for England. He stepped down from England, a bit like Alan Shearer did, to prolong his team career, and he will stay with us a little bit longer. And he would, like I say, be that super sub. So I'll tell you something. If you've had Daka running at you for 70 minutes, he goes off, and your defenders are thinking, "Oh, thank God for that." And you go, oh shit, Vardy's coming on. So there we go. Right. Thanks for your questions, Helen. I hope I passed the test. Got enough right. Monday, tomorrow night. Monday is now officially our review night. We have 2 review shows at 7:00. Join me and Lou, and we'll be looking back at all the domestic results over the last week and weekend. And then at 9:00, join myself, Anthony, and Doug, and we will be looking at the European games, so Champions League, Europa Conference, and then the four main European divisions: the French, the German, the Spanish, and the Italian. So a little bit different we're trying there. So it's the UK review, Premier League review at 7, and the Euro review at 9. To everybody who's been watching, thank you very much. To everybody who's put the questions and comments in, Renee and David and Helen especially, thank you very much. And again, and David, thank you. Yep, thank you there. Thank you, David. See you again tomorrow. Thank you, yes, and thank you for your support. And it's been great talking to you as well, Helen. Have a good bank holiday. Not long to go now. Nearly the end of the season. Can you believe it? I don't believe it. Can you believe where this season has gone to? But Thursday night, all roads lead to Rome. Fingers crossed. Hope we can do it. It's 1-1. We've done it at Eindhoven. Why? Who's to say that we cannot do it in Rome? Fingers crossed. Come on, you foxes. I'll see you tomorrow night at 7. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening on the podcast. Good night.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
That's all, folks.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now.